What's up, guys? So tonight I finally decided to dig into the wife's Jeep. The adjustable pedals don't work. Well, they would work. It would move maybe half an inch is all each way. You could hear everything working and clicking, and it just would stop and only go so far. I just disconnected the little worm drive, spring drive, whatever you want to call it, down into the little module. Now, I'll show you in a second, but where all this stuff goes. But I looked online and I couldn't find anything anywhere. I found a few forums just saying to take the whole pedal thing off. I took the pedal itself, just comes right off, and it's all electrical, so it's pretty easy. There's the two on top and the one on bottom. That's a T30. I'll show you all this stuff. So under here you're gonna need a T20 and a T25 Torx bit, Phillips to get the, and I took the little black panel off up under there. So when you get under here, you will have the pedal installed. This actually goes back. So this is your pivot point under here. This is the throttle plug, but this is your pivot point for the motion of the motor. And this is your drive, your little snake drive that actually spins the motor, which spins this worm gear, which in turn spins the big gear to adjust this. So you take the pedal off, the pedal goes on this pivot bracket, those three holes I showed you earlier, and then after that there's a pin that goes all the way through everything, and that pin, just like this, it comes in from the passenger side, goes through, I think it goes through that metal thing on the actual gear drive assembly here, and then on the other side you have a plastic first, you have the compression one next, and then the lock one, the star lock one, last, to kind of hold everything in place. After that, you're gonna get the motion off this pivot. You can see that's where the pin rides. That's the amount of movement you should have in your pedal. And they both should move, the brake and the gas. What would happen is if I disconnected this one, because you can compress the little spring lock in there and pop that out, which slides into, whoops, that end of the worm gear. But when you disconnect that and you move them, the brake one should move freely, because when that drive gear goes bad on the gas, it locks them both up, and I was only getting so much distance. So once you get back here, and there's 3 T20 Torx, 1, 2, and 3, kind of a bear to get to. I'm sure you could take this pivot out to kind of get more room, but once I got back there, I took those out, and this gear assembly basically just pops right out. So that's the piece that goes through the long pin that goes through on the outside. This is what you'll see. And on the inside, you'll see this big gear. when your worm gear spins, it spins this, which pushes the pedal out by this, which is what that pin slides through. So there's your movement back and forth. So I get this off, and on the things that I've read says that this cracks. Would you look at that? It's cracked. So I'm assuming it hits the worm gear right there at those teeth, and it can't go anywhere. So it just stops. So my motion, the distance that I have, is basically one rotation of this, which isn't very far. So I found online the 3D print file for the gear. So I went ahead and I printed me one of these today, and this is the result. So I'm going to give it a little grease. I'm going to slap it on there. I mean, this is plastic too, so obviously it doesn't have a lifetime kind of purpose. According to looking online and everything, it happens to quite a lot of people. So I'm going to grease it up, throw it on here, and give it a whirl. All right, I got the new one installed. Goes in, the two on the right side. The single is like 10 o'clock. And it just kind of pops in there. But the drive one, that's the one that spins from the worm gear that comes in and out. So that goes in like that. Let's give it a test. You can pop this in here like so, and I don't know if it's gonna pop it out, but let's try. Whoa. And that's obviously just rotating because the pin's not through it, but it works. So I'll put those 3 screws in, and I'll put that pin back through the pivot point. One thing I forgot to mention, when you install that, make sure that the actual drive shaft that the pin goes through is bottomed out. And then you're going to want to retract your pedals as far towards the firewall as you can, right? Because if your pin is out, you know, so far, and then you try to extend your pedals, it might bottom out on that slide, the pivot slide, to where it'll stop because it can't go any farther. But if you bottom out your pedals and bottom out that pin, you know that that's your basically stopping point to bottom out. And then you know that you're going to have full retraction when you bring them back. All right, we got the gear drive installed with the screws. Then our pivot point, the main drive bar, sits in this hole. Slide the pin through the pivot plate, and then, like I said, those 3 washers on the outside. Probably push that lock in a little bit, but it's on there now. Let's try it again. Probably needs to break in a little bit, but it works. full motion. You can see the brake moving too. So, cool. I'll get the pedal back on. All right, all buttoned up. In and out, works like it should. So, now you know when your pedals stop working. You can tear that apart and 3D print your own. Now we can press 1. It's already in 1. Oh yeah, that's 1. So 2. And then 1. All good. Cheers.